Wonderful. Thank you, Patrick. On behalf of OE Castle, I want to welcome everyone here tonight. My name is Shannon Marchand. I'm the Senior Project Manager for CCDF Operations, and I'll be leading the presentation tonight. We're really excited that everyone has joined us to learn more about pay by enrollment. We did go live on Monday, so hearing that lots of providers have been able to successfully register already, and just a few hiccups along the way that we're working out. So appreciate everyone being here for that. If you have attended a previous webinar, that's totally fine. We will recap a few things for you that are important for you to know, but you're also going to get additional new information tonight to help you navigate the system and make sure that you are very successful. Just a reminder, we are recording the webinar. The link will be shared hopefully by the end of the week. That will be posted on Spark's website, so you can revisit it at any time. And the slides are also on the website, so you can share that with your staff as well. Because of the size of the meeting, we have disabled the raise hand feature as well as you being able to come off mute, but we will be taking questions in our Q&A section. We have Tony Cruz, our Senior IT Project Manager there, who has helped with everything pay by enrollment, and Laura Sullivan, she's one of our Senior Policy Consultants. So they'll be watching for those questions to be dropped in. I will note that Q&A is different than the chat section, so don't drop your questions in the chat section. Please put them in the one that is labeled Q&A. And if you don't mind, if you'll wait until closer to the end of the presentation to ask your questions, I'll be covering a lot of information tonight, and most of your questions should be answered through the presentation. But if you still have additional questions, there'll be plenty of time built in at the end for us to take those questions. I will say that Tony and Laura are going to be able to answer all of the general questions that come in. But if you have any unique situations with scheduling or attendance, we do have a special email that is set up for those. We want to be able to give those a more thorough response and time to those. So been getting quite a few of those. We just want to make sure that we have time to address those and get you a thorough answer, because the questions kind of start coming in fast and furious in the Q&A. We will drop that email in the chat for you, but it is paymentquestions@fssa.in.gov. And we man that throughout the day and can get you answers back to those very quickly. Okay, so what will we cover in today's webinar? That will be logging on to iLead and registering your banking information, setting up your data entry method, viewing your voucher information for your program, logging children's absences and off days, logging provider closures, and then sharing the transition timeline and some important steps that need to be done in the next couple of weeks, as well as anything that needs to be done before making the full switch to pay by enrollment, and some live office hours and additional supports that we're offering. So I always like to start with celebrating what this change means for providers. So most importantly, this means no more POS machines or a need for landline phone systems to run those POS machines. There will be no more swipe cards, no more personal days that need to be tracked for families, no more missed swipes or counting hours. So there's no worrying about whether or not you're going to get a partial payment or a full payment or no payment that week. And most importantly, no action required by the family in order for providers to get paid. So just shifting that responsibility a little bit to make sure that providers get those payments. So submitting attendance with pay by enrollment, providers are going to use a new provider portal. Sometimes you'll see that referred to as PPP, which stands for the Parent Provider Portal. This is where you will enter and manage the children's absences and off days, the provider paid and non-paid closures. You'll be able to view all of your voucher information as well as any past absence data that has been submitted. And you'll be able to access Tyler Technologies or RFS, which is OE Castle's new payment vendor. So all of that is done through iLead. We'll get into that here in just a second, but it's nice that it's all housed together in the new system. Also, if you have signed up for one of the state preferred CCMS vendors that we had been advertising, then you have a way to submit attendance data through what we call a data bridge connection, which means that if you're entering absence and attendance data into your CCMS, then that information will be automatically transferred into our portal, and then you will not have to re-enter that information. And just an important distinction, even if you're using a CCMS vendor, payment is always going to come from Tyler Technologies, our payment vendor. It does not come from your CCMS vendor. So you're not going to get a payment directly from Playground or ELV or Brightwheel. That will come through Tyler Technology. So it's very important that you go in and do the steps to register with them. So as I mentioned, the new provider portal is through iLead. So providers or program administrators will be able to log into their existing iLead account, and there will be a new button there labeled attendance and voucher information. When you click on that button, that will take you to the home page of the new provider portal. So everyone should be able to see that button now. It was not available before July 15th if you logged on before then to look for it, but it should be there now. And when you click that, that will take you into the portal. So as I mentioned, all program administrators with access to iLead are also going to have access to the provider portal to be able to enter those attendance and closure days. If you need to have additional program admins added to your account so that they have access to your attendance data, you'll have them create an Access Indiana account first, and then you can go in and send them an invite to link your program with their account. So there is information there on Access Indiana and how to get that set up. And the Spark Help Desk is also wonderful with helping providers and parents get signed up for that. So if you need that, don't hesitate to reach out. Once you've selected that tile, it will take you to this home page of the provider portal where you will see 4 tiles here. So the first one is labeled absences. This is where you will enter absences for children as well as viewing your entire voucher list. So both of those are housed there. Then there are closure days. This is where you will enter any of your provider closures when you are not operating. The payment tile here, you may also see labeled as Tyler Technologies or RFS, Rapid Financial Solutions. Again, that is the name of the payment vendor. And that is where you will register for the payment vendor and set up your banking information. You would go back there if you ever need to update any banking information. And then you can also see a history of all your payments and individual payment details. And then this last tile, data entry setup, that is where you will choose how you are submitting your attendance. So you can submit through the portal, or as I mentioned, if you have a CCMS system, you will have an option of submitting your attendance that way as well. So most critical action item here is to make sure that you are registered with the payment vendor. So we are seeing a lot of providers that have been able to successfully log into the new portal, but are not yet connecting bank information. So we want to make sure that you don't have any interruptions to your payments, that it's a smooth transition from the old conduit system to this new system. And one of those steps is to make sure that you're getting your banking information entered prior to August 10th. So doesn't have to be done today, but you do need to do it very soon. Any of your banking information will not be transferred from the old conduit system into this new system. So it does have to be registered in this system. And then only one of the program admins is going to have access to be able to update banking information. So even though you may have multiple admins that are accessing attendance and being able to enter those absences, do note that only one will be able to update banking information. So the tile that I mentioned that is for data entry method, that one you need to set up how you are submitting your attendance. Everyone will automatically default to entering attendance in the portal and are required to use the portal for the first 2-week submission. So everyone will automatically default to that. Once that first attendance submission is sent, then you will have the option, starting with the second service period, to update it to one of the state preferred CCMSs if that's how you choose to send your attendance. So that is not required, but it does save a lot of time, and it saves having to duplicate any of your attendance entries. You do have to select a future date for that change, and it does have to be at the start of a service period. So you can't say, for the first week I'm going to do it this way and then I'm going to change to a different way. So the whole 2-week service period has to be either done through the portal or through your CCMS. So when you have chosen this data entry method tile, there will be a drop down there where you can select your site if you have more than one. So if you are an admin and you have registered multiple license numbers under that admin login, you'll see that drop down menu. You can select which site you're working on and then select whether or not you're going to use the provider portal or one of the CCMS vendors. If you select a CCMS vendor, then you'll put that start date in next to that and then hit save, and then it would be ready for the next service period. If you make a mistake, you select the wrong CCMS, or you decide to go back to the provider portal to do your submissions, that's totally fine. You'll just hit the correct value in the drop-down menu, and then you can change back. So as I mentioned earlier, that first tile is labeled absences. So this is where you can view information about vouchers assigned to your program as well. And there are 2 ways that you can view voucher information. So you can either select an individual child's name to see that child's specific voucher, or you can select the My Voucher button at the top if you want to see all vouchers assigned to your program. So this screen brings up all the vouchers, and then there are column headers where you can sort the information you are looking for there. This is a screenshot from that My Vouchers page. So if you select that, you'll see a list of all of the vouchers listed there, and then the voucher type. So it'll have your active CCDF vouchers as well as any that we are labeled other. So that could be past or future vouchers listed under other. There is a drop down menu just above this blue bar here where you can change it to different different voucher types as well. So if you want to see just CCDF or just On My Way, you have that option as well. And then again, the next to where it says provider here at the top, you can select a different site and see a different site that's associated with you if you want to see vouchers for that. So no more having to log out and log back into a different license number, which is a really nice feature. So when you are ready to work on your first service period for submission, you will need to select the weeks that you wish to work on from the drop-down menu. If you do have a service period that is due or past due, you will see a red informational message that'll be across the top of the screen. Service periods are always 2 weeks long. They begin on a Sunday and they end on a Saturday. When it is close to time to submit that, you will start receiving a daily reminder that will start 5 days before that submission date. And then it will end when either you submit that date or that date has passed. So you will get multiple reminders. Hey, it's time. Your service period is due. So now moving into talking about the different attendance codes that a child may have. So these are for individual children. So with the new model, a provider will be paid full time for all children until till a child accumulates 45 absences across their enrollment year. So we are still using anniversary dates, which is the date the child started the program. And that is when they will get new absence days. So within that period, they can have 45 occasional absences. If a child attends any part of that day, they will be marked present. We no longer track hours, so there is not a minimum number of hours. Everything will be based on days. So you will mark a child present if they have attended any part of the day. And we want to make sure that we are stressing to families the importance of regular attendance and making sure that is encouraged. So when you pull up your attendance grid, Monday through Friday is automatically going to default to present for all children. So again, this is used when the child attended any amount of time for that day. If the child was not present, then you can click on the tile next to that child for that day, and it will automatically change that to an absence or an off day. So you want to make sure you're checking that for each child before you submit any attendance records. AB stands for absent. That is when a child is scheduled to attend but was not in attendance for that day. So that could be pre-planned or not. It could be for a child's vacations, sick days, an emergency. Those are going to be marked as absence, and they will count against the child's 45-day absence total. That does accrue across all providers they attend within that enrollment year. So providers will still be paid for those occasional absences, again, until the child reaches their 45th day. And then we have what's called off days. Off days should be used either when a provider does not operate, and you will see the default for Saturdays and Sundays will automatically show off days. That is how majority of our providers operate, so we did automatically fill that in for you. If that is not correct for you because you operate on a weekend, then you just need to update that to either present or absent for that child. Or if a child is not regularly scheduled to attend on that day, then they could be marked as an off day. So for example, a child who only attends Monday through Thursday and is never in your program on Friday, then that Friday would be marked as their off day. If that same child misses 2 more days that week because they were sick, Friday would still be marked as their off day. However, other 2 days would be marked as absences for those illnesses. So those are still paid days. If you mark an off day, it does not count against the child's excessive absence total. And just note that full-time children attending 5 days a week will never use off days. So anytime they are not attending and the provider is operating, then you will have an absence there when they are not attending. So as I mentioned, to change a child's attendance status, you just want to click or tap in the cell next to what you need to change. And that's going to change that P or whatever is currently listed there to the next option. So it'll go from P to AB for absence or OD for off day. If you click too many times, which I sometimes do, then it will circle back and go back to P and you can start over there. So you just want to make sure that you are checking that attendance for each day and each child before you submit that. If you choose to use a CCMS vendor for your attendance submission, when you get to this screen, it will be read only starting on the service period that you selected. So you will be doing all of those attendance entries other than your closures through your CCMS, and then that information will transmit into the provider portal without you having to go back and make those changes there as well. And then you'll see on the next screen, but if you see any weeks that are grayed out for a child, it means the child's vouchers either have not started yet for that week or the vouchers ended in the previous week. So you will not be able to update any attendance in those weeks. So moving on, this is a screenshot of what you'll see when you get to the absence page. So you will see some reminders here at the top. You'll see the service period, that 2-week date, and then when it is due. You will have the drop-down menu next to provider so that you can select which program you're submitting for. And then all the information listed for that program is there. There's also a reminder that anytime a child is on your roster and no longer attending, you do need to notify your eligibility office. We just ask that that be done within 5 business days anytime a child is no longer attending with you so that payment doesn't continue and result in an overpayment. The service period that you are submitting is listed next right under that red box there. So that will tell you the 2-week period that you are submitting. Then down that left column, you can see children are divided by age groups. So there are no infants and toddlers listed here, but if there were, they would have their own section there as well. And then through that attendance grid, you can see OD listed for the Saturdays and Sundays, and then those Ps listed in there for Monday through Friday. And then as you can see on this second line, the second child here, where it's marked in yellow, that one was changed from present to absent because that child was not in attendance that day. And then on the third line, that child was marked as an off day for Wednesday. So that is a day that child was not regularly scheduled to attend. They never come on Wednesdays. So that has been updated. And then over in the gray box here. So that means those last two, or the second to last two children there, did not have vouchers for the second week of this service period. So children's vouchers can never start or end in the middle of a week, but it could start or end in the middle of a service period. So you'll see that gray box and nothing is required there. And then here in red, where you see the PC, that means that the provider had paid closures for that day. They were closed for that whole week. They enter these on that closure tile from the main screen, and then it will automatically populate for all children in their program, and they will not have to enter those individually for each child. So a couple of important notes. Once your attendance period has ended, you do have 2 weeks to submit that. So the submit button will appear once that service period is ended. So for example, if a service period ends on a Saturday that week and it's only Thursday, you're not going to see that button. But once that service period has ended, that button will pop up and then you will have the 2 weeks to make those corrections and get that submitted. Once you submit your attendance information, it is locked and you will no longer be able to make any changes there. So it is very important that you're checking everything for accuracy before you're submitting. If you miss a submission date, so as I mentioned, you have 2 weeks after that period to get that submitted. But if you miss it, so maybe you got sick, towards the end of that, or went on vacation and forgot it was due, we do have a grace period, meaning that you will still be paid for one service period automatically if it is not submitted. You are still required to submit the correct information for that service period before you can move on. So service periods have to be submitted in order, and you will have to submit the missing one before you move on. You will not be paid if you miss 2 submission dates in a row until you have submitted all the missing attendance. So if you've gone several pay periods without submissions, then your payments will stop until you have submitted the correct information. So really important that you're watching those dates and keeping up with that. And again, as I mentioned, there's like a daily reminder when it's due and things like that. So hopefully no problems with keeping up with that and no missed payments. So for closures, providers can enter, change, or delete closures in the past as long as the service period has not been submitted. Or you can enter future dates, and that can be done for the full calendar year as well as the first quarter of the following year. So right now you would be able to enter closures through the end of 2024 as well as through March of 2025. I will note there is a bug that we are fixing, that the last couple of days of 2024 for some reason cannot be entered. So if you try to do that, don't panic. We're fixing that. You've got plenty of time to get those entered. And again, they do not have to be entered in the future, but you do have that option. You can go in and enter those as you go. So, a couple of things to note about provider closures. So, with the new system, providers will get paid for 11 closures per calendar year. Now, this now includes provider vacations, sick days, inclement weather days, emergency closures, staff in service, or holidays. If a provider is closed for the entire week, they do have to enter an attendance code for every day. So you would enter those 5 paid closures if you're closed for an entire week. If it's just the day, then you would just enter it for that day and then the regular attendance codes for the rest of the week. And then we have non-paid closures. Those are designated with NP. So providers would use a non-paid closure for any day that the program would normally be open, but they were not operating and children were not in attendance. So providers will not be paid if that non-paid closure option is selected. And if there are any weeks that a provider is closed for the entire week and they've selected NP for that entire week, then they would not be paid for that week. And this is only to be used when a provider is not operating for those days and all of the paid closures have already been exhausted. So starting as of Monday, 7/15 this week, all providers start with a paid closure. So even if you have used your holiday days before we switch to the new system, everyone starts fresh. So you have 11 paid closures to use for the remaining 2024 calendar year. If you did enter those days in the old Epic system for anything after July 15th, you do have to re-enter those days in the new system. So they're not going to roll over, even if you already put in all of your 2024 dates. Anything that is 7/15 or after, you want to make sure you get that into the iLead new provider portal. Each January 1st is when those days will reset. So you will receive those paid closure days again at the beginning of each calendar year. And unused days do not roll over to the next calendar year. So if you choose not to use all of your paid closures, they're not going to, double up next time. They're just going to reset back to the standard amount at the beginning of the year. OE Castle does want to stress to families the priority that's placed on children's early learning and development. We want to increase the attendance expectations for families. Providers should be stressing to families the importance of regular attendance and that they are holding that full-time spot and being paid to provide that full-time care. So reminders to families, the benefits to children and families are that children's learning and development grows through that consistent attendance. Children's social and emotional growth is enhanced, and children are more prepared for school. And for programs, the benefits are even more. That means that programs are better able to prepare lesson plans and get supplies. They're able to plan their menus for the week, and they're able to make sure that they're properly staffed for each day. So we did introduce this new excessive absence policy with pay by enrollment. Absences will be tracked against this excessive absence policy across all providers that children attend. So, as children start to miss days, letters will be issued to families and all of their providers after a children misses 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and 40 days. So, they are going to get several notices there before the vouchers terminate after the 45th day. We will also be offering outreach at the state level to those families to see if we can help with why they are missing so many days. If a child is terminated because of excessive absences, families do have to wait 90 days to reapply for that child. So we really want to make sure that we're working with families and making sure that the children are attending. This is a screenshot from the parent portal. So this is how they would be able to track their absences. So families are able to view at the bottom here under this blue bar, each of the individual days that are listed for their children. So as you can see, it has the date they were absent, which program, and then which provider logged that absence. So if a child is attending multiple programs, they'll be able to track that across providers. Then at the top, right above this blue bar, you can see each of the children and when their anniversary date is. So again, that's the date that their absence is reset. And then it keeps a running total for them. So they can see exactly how many absences each of their children has. And then once they've reached 30 absences, this warning message pops up that says, warning, you have 15 absences remaining through whatever their anniversary date is. And that keeps tracking for them. So they are able to see this at any time and know exactly where they stand with that excessive absence policy. Couple of important voucher notes here. Vouchers should only be assigned if your program has an opening and the child is ready to start attending. So if a parent comes to you and you don't have an opening in your program for several months because you have a waiting list, there should not be a voucher assigned. If a child will be out for an extended period of time, so they started vouchers with you, they've been attending the whole school year, now it's summer break and they don't need vouchers for that, we do need to have those vouchers modified to show a gap. So again, because those vouchers are going to be paid as long as they're assigned, we don't want them assigned to a program if a child is not ready to attend and regularly attending there. So anytime they're going to have those gaps, that needs to be reported to the eligibility office, and those vouchers would be modified. And then if a child no longer attends your program, as I mentioned earlier, or they enroll and never attend, because we know that happens sometimes. They sign up for your program, then they don't show up after their vouchers are assigned. We want to make sure that providers are contacting their eligibility office within 5 business days to get that updated roster so that we avoid that overpayment. We want to make sure providers aren't continuing to be paid for a child that's no longer enrolled. So providers are still required to keep their backup attendance method. So this has not changed. In addition to your voucher tracking, you should also have a different attendance method. So that could be one of the CCMS systems if you have one of those, or another electronic tracking system if you have it, or it could just be paper attendance, in which case the parents signing in and out each day and then either initialing or signing for their children so that we have that paper record. This is required to be kept for licensing and auditing purposes for up to 3 years. So we want to make sure that that backup method is always available. Because this is a brand new process for everyone, auditors will be monitoring all attendance data that is submitted, looking for any discrepancies, problems, things like that. So may reach out to you, ask you to provide that backup method. They're going to be looking for things like providers who never report any children absent ever. Means you're not going in and updating it correctly. Children who are marked for off days for an excessive amount of time instead of absences. Those types of things will flag a little closer look at your program and your backup method. But again, we will be looking at every program and every attendance that is submitted just to make sure that everybody is successful, doing the right thing, and that there's no additional supports that are needed there. So, with all the changes that are coming, I did want to spend a minute just kind of highlighting what stays the same during this process. So, the application process for families is going to stay the same. They will still have access to Early Ed Connect, our online application process, or if they're having trouble with that, they could always request a paper application. That will stay the same. The open enrollment process for new families, all the paperwork they submit and how that works, stays the same. You will still fill out provider information pages for provider changes for families, and they will submit that to their eligibility office. Just a reminder, if you are wanting it to be effective for the following week, those do have to be submitted before noon on Thursday. Or there's a place where you can mark a future date too. So if the change is going to be 2 weeks out, then you would specify that on your form. If a family has any case updates, changes in address or phone number, changes in their service need, meaning their employment or education needs, or household composition. So they've added a family member, they've had a baby, they got married, somebody moved out, any of those kind of things. We want to make sure that that is getting submitted ASAP to their eligibility office so that we can update their case. And then the reauthorization process will also stay the same. So they will still be getting their packets about 30 days prior to their subsidy end date. It will have all of the forms they need and the instructions on how to submit that packet. So all of that stays the same for families. And then I've shared this before, but if you haven't been at one of the trainings, this is our transition timeline with some important dates here. So pay by enrollment began as of July 15th. So as of July 13th, last week, families should no longer be swiping cards on your POS machine. If they have swiped in this week, that is fine. We are disregarding those swipes because we did switch to the new system as of this week. So that'll go into that new attendance tracking. You will need to keep your POS machine until all of your late attendance, so any missing swipes or anything that you need to do has been completed. But after that, your POS machine can be returned to Conduit or it can be recycled. And we do have a link that shows all of the recycling centers in every county across the state of Indiana. So don't just throw them in the trash, make sure that they are returned to an electronic recycling center. Or if you don't have one close to you and you don't want to do that, you can reach out to Conduit and request a box and return label as well. So again, that can happen anytime after all of your swipes have been completed. Between now and August 10th is when we need you to log on to iLead and register in the new portal. Get your banking information in there so that there is no interruption to your payments. So that is a two-step process. As I mentioned before, we want to make sure that you're not only logging on to that iLead portal, but also getting your banking information in so that we have that. We have lots of providers who've logged onto the portal and haven't quite finished that second step. So tracking those, and we'll be reaching out to those providers as well if they don't get that in before August 10th. The last day to enter any late attendance in the Epic portal or to do any of those late swipes if need be is July 25th. So at the end of the day on July 25th, that will be the last time that you will be able to enter any late attendance in the Epic portal before it goes to the new system completely. So you want to make sure all of those get entered. And then at the end of that day, there will be an auto approval process. So any late attendance that you've put in the last 56 days or any personal days that you've entered in the last 56 days will be auto approved for your families. So you don't need them to go in and do that step at this point. That'll be taken care of next week. The first attendance period in this new system is July 14th through July 27th. And as I mentioned earlier, then you have 2 weeks after that period to submit that. So the first available date to submit attendance in the new system is going to be July 28th, and you have until August 10th. If it is easier for you to go in and update that daily, you are more than welcome to do that. So if you know there was a child that was absent, you want to go ahead and put that in. You do not have to wait until the end of that 2-week period, but you won't be able to submit until that 2-week period has ended. After that auto approval runs on July 25th, the last payment that will be deposited from Conduent, our old payment vendor, will be on July 31st. And that will be your last Wednesday payment date. So the first payment after that will come from our new payment vendor, Tyler Technologies, and that will be on August 15th. Note that that is a Thursday. So after July 31st, the deposit dates will be shifting from Wednesday to Thursday. Same week, all of that, it just shifts by a day. So again, just to do a quick recap of what providers should be doing before we completely transition into pay by enrollment and move on, is that we want to make sure that you are getting all of that late attendance submitted. So again, anything in the last 56 days that was incorrect, we want to make sure that you are getting those entered in the system if they were missed. And then those will be auto approved on July 25th. And then that final payment will come on the 31st. And then the second thing that we want to make sure that you are doing is updating your program rosters. And that especially means identifying any non-attending children that are still on your roster. So make sure at this point you're either logging into your new iLead system to view rosters, or you can still see them in the old Epic system, and making sure that you are notifying eligibility if there are any non-attending children. And then the other thing that I encourage you to do is to check iLead and ensure all of your program admin contacts are up to date. We want to make sure that you are getting all of the important communications that are coming out from the state, including all of the pay by enrollment updates. And I've heard from some providers that they aren't getting all those comms, and that might be because your email information is not correct. So that list pulls from iLead. So you just want to make sure you have the right people in there and that all of their contact information is up to date. So a couple of next steps here for providers. We do have this pay by enrollment website, this on.in.gov/vouchers. That has all the information about this change, as well as all of our frequently asked questions. That is broken down for sections for families and providers. So you can refer your families there as well. There is also a provider checklist there to make sure that you've completed everything that is needed for this pay by enrollment switch. So highly recommend that you go on there and find the checklist, make sure that you have done everything that you need to do. And then lastly, if you are not receiving our Monday Must Know newsletter that gets emailed out to stay updated on everything happening at OE Castle, highly recommend that you sign up for that. Lots of important communications going out through that Monday Must Know newsletter. So if you're not signed up, we'll make sure you get the link for that as well. Um, we'll be hosting some live office hours the week of July 29th, as well as the week of August 5th. Those are the first 2 weeks that you can submit attendance. So those are not prepared webinars like this one is. Those will be live times that you can pop in, ask a question as you're doing something, and get support in real time. So there are 4 dates here. July 30th, August 1st, August 5th, and August 7th. There are registration links on the Indiana Spark website, so you can go on there. So you have those on your calendar. You don't have to attend all of them, just whenever you need support, you can pop in and ask your questions. And then, of course, anytime that we are not doing these live office hours, you can reach out to the Spark Help Desk, either on their telephone number, or they have some live chat options on their website as well. Um, just remember, as you're reaching out, this is a brand new program for them too. So just started on Monday with that help desk support. They are doing a fantastic job. Some of the wait times may be a little longer than what you have. So if you have any trouble with that, feel free to check back with them or access those online features as well. And then just so you know, you have an entire support team that is available if you have questions. So we put together this handy QR code here to make it convenient for you. All of your general questions about pay by enrollment should go through the Spark Help Desk. So again, you can call or use their online features for that. So if you have questions about setting up your account, using the new system, where to find something, where to put your information, they would be your first line of defense there, and they should be able to help you through all of those things. If you have specific support that you need with a missing payment or entering late attendance, your policy consultant is your best friend for that. And there is a link here to reach the policy consultant in your county. If you are not familiar with them, they are program supports for anything that you need. So feel free to reach out to them, especially if you have those very specific questions about payments or vouchers. If you still need to clean up your roster at this point to remove any children, you're going to want to reach out to your local eligibility office. If you need their contact information, there is a QR code there for them as well, and they can help take care of that for you. And then the last QR code here does link to that pay by enrollment page where you can find your provider readiness checklist, all of the previous recordings and slides from the other webinars that we've done, frequently asked questions, and some of the really handy information for you. We have reached the end of the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue to monitor the QA. So if you have questions that we did not answer that you need answered, we will stay and answer those. If you don't mind, we have this QR code here. This goes to a short survey that we put together that's providing us some very valuable information on how well we're doing and what we can still do better to support providers for pay by enrollment. So if you don't mind taking a few minutes to let us know what resources you received, how helpful they are for you, what else you still need, that would be super helpful feedback for us. And then if you don't have any further questions, thank you for your time and participation this evening. I appreciate everyone showing up. And if you do have any future questions, as I mentioned earlier, that payment questions at FSSA email is available to you. If anything comes up, we'd be happy to talk to you through there as well.
All right, thank you, Shannon. For those of you who may not have used a QR code before, you'll just take your phone out, set it into the camera mode. If you focus it over that QR code, you will have a link pop up to follow that into your browser on your phone, and you'll be able to complete that survey. Looks like we do have a couple questions sitting in our Q&A right now, so we will go ahead and answer those. Once we have cleared out the Q&A, we will let you all know, and we will go ahead and end this webinar. So thank you so much.